Good morning to you all. I love being called Reverend, but I'm sorry to say that I am not quite there yet. I might have been. I was supposed to graduate this last May originally, but lo and behold, a year and a half ago, my wife and I became proud parents of twins after already having a 3-year-old. So the brakes kind of went on things a bit, and now we've extended this a bit for another year, and I might be Reverend next time I see you. But I love the sound of that. That's great. Thank you. So as I said, I'm actually in my 4th year of seminary now. I'm a husband and a father of 3 kids, and you might have heard how difficult seminary can be. And I'm here to tell you that with those kids and a working spouse, it can be off the charts crazy. The courses are some of the most challenging you could imagine. I mean, I can't even describe taking Hebrew and ancient Greek. Something else. But on top of that coursework, for the first 3 years of seminary, you also are working in a church 10 hours a week or a similar placement. That work usually falls on weekends, so you don't end up spending a lot of time with your family, much less helping out around the house. We often say, those of us who are married in seminary, blessed be the spouses of seminary students. So I was pretty excited in May to have finished up my last placement at First Presbyterian Church in Kirkwood, so I could spend this last year focusing on my coursework, my family, preparing for ordination exams, and helping out more around the house. Sure, I'd preach a couple of times, maybe work in my church's food pantry, help out here and there, but I promised myself and my wife nothing more than that. Then the email came. It was from Susan Andrews, our interim pastor at Second Presbyterian, my home church. Dear Eric, would you please consider serving on the church's stewardship committee? Of course, I would be honored. Stewardship, as you probably know, is code for fundraising. Well, it's so much more than that, but when it comes down to it, it's really about raising money. And if you're anything like me, you really dislike being asked to donate, no matter how worthy a cause. For instance, I love public radio, public TV, but my idea of hell would be to be eternally trapped in a traffic jam during a pledge drive. But even more than my dislike for being asked for money, I really hate asking for others to open up their wallets. I actually volunteered as a DJ for a little while on a public radio station out in California. And during the one pledge drive show that I hosted, I successfully raised $0. So you can imagine my trepidation at being asked to help with church stewardship. But of course, I acknowledge how vital this work is for the church. And what I'm only starting to understand is how important the sacrificial act of giving can be for our spiritual lives. In the passage we just heard from Luke, Jesus offers a parable to help his disciples understand the meaning of what we call the Lord's Prayer, or at least Luke's version of it. Suppose you disturb a friend late in the evening to ask him to loan you bread so that you might provide food to a friend who has arrived at your house unexpectedly. The first friend is already in bed, as are his children, and the door is locked. Go away is basically his response. It doesn't sound very Christian, especially since the friend knocking at the door is only trying to show hospitality to a traveler, someone who surely needs to be fed. And of course, providing such hospitality is a central tenet of the Bible. But imagine being that friend who's being bothered. You've had a long day. You just got your kids to bed. And now you're in your pajamas or whatever it is you sleep in. And you're lying down and just dozing off. And then, sorry to bother you, but could you lend me 3 loaves of bread? My buddy from out of town just showed up and I don't have anything to feed him. If you're the one in bed, you might wonder why your friend has let his cupboards go bare. or why the traveling friend showed up unannounced. And you might feel like telling your friend at the door to go bother someone else. Jesus gets that, but he illustrates that though people may not be willing to help one another if it's inconvenient, even if they're friends, we are eventually responsive to being pestered. Our translation has Jesus saying, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he is his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs. One of the more interesting things that I came across when I was researching this passage, though, was that the word persistence is too mild of a translation, according to many scholars. And the words shamelessness or audacity would more precisely convey the true meaning of the passage. The one knocking at the door of his friend's house with all its lights out does not listen when he is told to go away. He breaks social convention by ignoring his friend's rebuke and continues to knock, even at the risk of being downright rude, or at least rather annoying. The friend will give him whatever he needs because of his shameless persistence. You won't go away until I give you what you want, will you? Do many or most of us respond to the petitions of others, no matter how worthwhile the cause? Do we fail to respond to their petitions until we are shamelessly or persistently bothered? I can say that, for one, I'm probably not the most cheerful giver when someone asks me for something on an evening when I've got all 3 kids and they're screaming. Public broadcasting stations have tried time and again to decrease the number of pledge drives, or even to do away with them, by asking listeners or viewers to support during regular broadcasts. But this more subtle approach just hasn't worked. They've found that they're only able to raise the money they need by gently annoying us on a regular basis. I don't relish the idea that stewardship may entail a certain degree of shamelessness or even audacity. When I think about asking congregants to give, or to give even more than they already do, all I can think about is how much church members generally give already. You come to church almost every week. You tithe a portion of your income. You volunteer a portion of your time. And we ask again and again for you to give more of your time and your treasure. We keep asking you to do more and give more. You who likely do more and give more than most people. So I look back to the gospel for guidance. And upon rereading the passage, I remember that this parable is not so much about our works of hospitality or our willingness to help others in need, as important as that is. It's more about God's willingness to answer our prayers and to provide for us. Because our good God is not and cannot be like the one who refuses to answer the door to help out a friend. By God's grace, we are given a pass for our weakness, for our hesitation to help others. But Jesus says, in so many words, ask me, and I will deliver. I'll deliver you what you need. Whatever you seek, I will help you find it. When you knock on my door, I will always open it to you. And because, after all, it's God who we're praying to, we need not be persistent or shameless in our prayers for God to answer them. God hears us the first time. And because we are God's beloved children, we can expect some kind of answer. The other wrinkle of this parable, though, concerns the real nature of our prayers. You'll hear this passage quoted by many to bolster an individualistic spirituality. And ask and it will be given to you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. It can sound awfully evangelical or even supporting a prosperity gospel. But only if it's separated from the preceding passage, the parable. The parable that Jesus offers has little to do with petitioning God on our own behalf. Instead, the hypothetical situation that Jesus lays out involves asking for help on another's behalf. Our personal relationship with Jesus, no matter how much it might mean to each and every one of us, is not the end of the Christian story. By the example of Jesus' life and teachings, as witnessed in all 4 of the Gospels, we know that the Christian life, as much as anything, involves making sacrifices for others. And not just any others, but most importantly, the others who we don't know, who are different from us, those for whom we find it most difficult to muster our sympathy, our compassion, our charity. Any of us will give our children what they ask of us, well, at least what they need of us. But who among us is prepared to act as neighborly as the Samaritan, to help another human being in need, no matter what? No matter how different they look, no matter how different their beliefs, no matter how far away they may be from us. So what then about the part of the parable that emphasizes the value of shameless prayer? Certainly, an all-powerful God does not need to be pestered into action. Instead, might such persistence be more about the value that this kind of prayer has for those of us who are doing the praying? It's no accident that this lesson concerns the Lord's Prayer, a daily spiritual practice for many of us that centers us and guides our hearts. In our reading from Genesis, what purpose is served by Abraham asking God different versions of the same question so many times that it almost becomes annoying to us hearing it? Was I the only one? It was like my 3-year-old. Well, one reason is that this repetition emphasizes a very important point. God's mercy knows no bounds. Another reason is that with each time we hear an idea, its meaning is ingrained a little bit deeper in us, like the ruts of a wagon trail carved out by multiple wheels, repeatedly traveling the same path time and again. And the more God's mercy is spelled out, the more we come to realize what is being asked of us. We know that we are often like the friend behind the door, the one who just wants to be left alone. We can't get too hung up on feeling guilty about our own hesitation to open that door. We're not God, after all. But as we try to imagine all that it takes for God's will to be done on earth, let's also remember that our friends and neighbors also would really rather not be bothered. Who isn't overwhelmed by our own personal stresses and concerns? That doesn't mean that people have cold hearts. That doesn't mean they don't want to help. What it does mean, though, is that they may need a bit of persistent prodding. They may need us to not go away. Christian evangelism of the 21st century may have less to do with converting sinners than with asking for folks to help out with the hard work of making this world a much better place. Even if it means that sometimes we run the risk of coming across as persistently annoying or as busybodies. In the ancient church, Christians were said to be known by the way they loved one another. What if, in this church, in this contemporary church of today, we were known by the way we persistently, even shamelessly, ask for help on behalf of others? I could certainly think of worse things. Amen.